Then was at Chainalysis for a little bit, and been in the VC game for the past 4 years. Was at an early stage venture capital fund, and then now I'm at a growth equity fund called 10T at One Roundtable Partners. We manage about 1.5 billion in AUM across 26 different companies, 5 funds, and most recently we've been incubating a decentralized wrapped Bitcoin product powered by a decentralized custody network that we're coming to market and launching mainnet next month. So really excited. Have been spending a lot of my time on trust minimized bridging and how we can get Bitcoin to other ecosystems as it relates to other L1s and DeFi more broadly in a trust minimized, highly secure way. So really excited for this panel, and thanks for having me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Appreciate everything you do for the ecosystem. Next up, we have one of my favorite people, Mr. Vitalii Yatskiv, COO and Deputy CEO, and I always like to say former CTO because he is a super technical guy. Vitalii Yatskiv. Vitalii, give us a little bit of an introduction to you and your building history.
Yeah, hi everybody. I started my career in blockchain. I'm natively blockchain guy. I started in 2016 as developer. On 2019, I moved more to the consulting space. I mostly focused on the Web3 adoption to Web2 enterprises. Used to work with guys like suit guys from the Wall Street, suit guys from the energy, oil, gas drilling industry. And I joined Boosty 2.5 years ago to turn back from the enterprise space to the real cooking space and the Web3 because I'm really excited about how industry moving very fast and how blockchain became the general thing in our lives.
Beautiful, beautiful. I also like to brag always, especially for any NFT fans in the room, that Mr. Vitalii here is the man who built the very first ever NFT bridge in 2017, 2018 on EOS. So he's an OG, he's an OG. So talk to him afterwards. And last but certainly not least, we have somebody who I met through a VC program. I've been mentoring with the lovely folks at Outlier Ventures for the better part of the past 4 years. And Ian was one of the projects that I had the pleasure of mentoring and then continue to work with. And Ian is from Joltz and is an absolute superstar building directly on Bitcoin. So Ian, tell us a little bit about yourself and about Joltz.
Yeah, hey everyone. I took kind of a different path into all of this. I worked as a consultant with enterprise analytics back in the day. We were acquired by MasterCard, interestingly enough. And so I got a view into the belly of the beast of traditional payments. I spent a couple years in Dubai overseeing that acquired business unit for the Middle East and Africa region. And so I had an upfront, close, and personal view of this desire and intention by these incumbent giants to sort of bank the unbanked, right? We've all heard that. There's about 1.5 billion people totally, completely unbanked. And looking and being a part of that up front and close, I can assure you that the traditional system, and I think everyone in this room obviously intuitively knows this, is simply not equipped or designed to achieve those goals. It's just not. And so you compare that with the borderless, permissionless technology that we're all building on Bitcoin, it is a non-starter. And so a lot of that experience is folded into Joltz. I'm the co-founder of Joltz, and we're building dev tooling, infrastructure. We've also built the first self-custodial wallet and swapping solution for the Taproot Assets protocol. Tether made a big announcement a couple weeks ago that they would be bringing USDT back to Bitcoin as a Taproot asset. And so we're building a lot of the dev tooling and infrastructure to make that possible.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for being here, Ian. Awesome. So as you guys can see here today, we have venture capital. We have people who work with venture capital. We have people who are incubated by venture capital. But really, a lot of the time, and my first job was also at a VC, a lot of the time people think of a VC ecosystem as extremely conservative. And that's partially correct, but also I think, especially when we're looking at this space specifically, we have to be a little bit less risk-averse than maybe some more traditional funds. But Adi, I'd love to pass it to you first. I know you've done a ton of work within the stablecoin ecosystem. Ian was just touching on this again. There's so much happening now in the space. We know that, Tether is doing work, Circle is doing work, people are moving to Lightning, people are moving to L1, L2s on Bitcoin. There's a lot more DeFi happening within that ecosystem, and maybe a little bit more of a conservative approach, kind of similar to how a lot of people would LP on like a Uniswap or something along those lines, a little bit of a lower risk DeFi play. So would love to get your perspective on, I guess, the current state of stablecoins, and just from a VC perspective, what is your, I guess, appetite to risk these days, and how do you guys, I guess, hedge against that?
Yeah, I mean, stablecoins are by far the #1 sector in crypto that have found product market fit. Supply is at an all-time high. You're seeing Bank of America, different institutions come in and try to launch stablecoins. I think you're seeing protocols trying to launch stablecoins, and they're realizing that there's a massive leakage of value capture when they don't have their own stablecoin. You're seeing Robinhood settle in internal transactions with stablecoins. That's a huge unlock that we haven't seen before, right? Massively bullish on stablecoins. And there's actually a really interesting comparison between what happened in stablecoins in 2021 and 2022 and what's happening in the Bitcoin, DeFi, Bitcoin Fi, wrap Bitcoin market right now. You had USDC and USDT, primarily major stablecoins that control majority of the supply, but you also have yield-bearing stablecoins just recently over the past 6 months that have grown to $1 billion plus in supply in a very, very short period of time. Now with wrap Bitcoin and Bitcoin derivatives, you have WBTC, that is like the canonical version of bringing wrap Bitcoin to DeFi, that has a majority of the market share, but that has slowly been decreasing steadily, which is a factor of newer wrap Bitcoin products coming to market, whether they're yield-bearing or a highly decentralized, more secure wrap Bitcoin products. So that comparison is something that we look at a lot. I mean, we're investors in Circle and big fans of USDC, but the trust assumptions that you have to make when you deposit Bitcoin into a bridge or a custodian is severely high. And as a Bitcoin maxi, you don't really want to take that trust. You have a lack of trust with a lot of these centralized custodians, and we're seeing that with WBTC now, and that's fine. And there's just going to be a new evolution of innovative wrap Bitcoin products that come out, and that's what we're trying to do here at ZenBTC. I think right now the wrap Bitcoin TVL in all ecosystems and all of DeFi across all chains hovers around 30 to 35 billion. Wrap Bitcoin TVL, like L1 TVL, is only 500 million, right? So that is going to 10x, I think, over the next 2 to 3 years. And there's going to be massive catalysts to use Bitcoin in borrow-lend protocols as premium collateral, which is what we're really focused on, and really focused on the trust assumptions behind that. So we're not, a custodian by any means, right? We don't hold your private key. Only you do, and a decentralized network of validators do in the back end. And we use MPC to shard and kind of break up the private key into 8 different pieces right now. That's going to be 16 in the near future. But I think that's a very big unlock in terms of just innovation of security and trust assumptions as you want to bring Bitcoin into DeFi.
Oh, 100%. If you can create a security mechanism that'll get VC guys on board and feel like they're risk averse when they're coming into the space, even if it's just around stablecoins or wrap Bitcoin, hugely bullish. And let's push the digital gold narrative further and make that the store of value that we all love and need. Vitalii, I'd love to pass it to you because you've worked across a number of different ecosystems, but also, Boosty Labs also has what was previously called Boosty Studio, now Asteroid XYZ, and we do incubate several of our own projects. One of them is here, RunesDex. You can go check out their booth anytime today and talk to Eric. He's our product director. But Vitalii has been majorly involved in incubating and building up many of these products, but you've also worked with many other venture studios, VCs, like 1KX is one of the larger clients at Boosty, on incubating and building products. So tell me from your perspective, when you're working with a VC and when you're working with their ecosystem, what is the builder's approach? We have a number of people here who are building in our hackathon. We have a number of people here who are founders of projects in the space who've either recently raised or are currently raising. What's your perspective on this, and what's your message to builders who want to work with VCs or with incubators?
Yeah, I think in the current VC space, the biggest problem of the most of startups in Web3 industry is the speed of the delivery, because everybody's struggling on it, yes. VCs are doing go-to-markets, doing very good plans to help the builders with their products to become huge. But a lot of teams are fucked up because when they're building very complicated systems, especially if we're speaking about Bitcoin space, like we had problem with testnet. It was impossible to get testnet BTC for the testnet 3, or it costed like more than most of the tokens on the market. Yeah, test tokens were better than Matic. Yeah. And it's decrease the speed of the delivery, and hackers have to focus more on the business value for the product than on the having like the most beautiful optimized code for the early stages, because first business and tech, if we speak about the perspective of the VC wants to have very beautiful products, VC want to have emergency tech, but VC wants to have money from the products they invested in. So speed of the delivery, first, second, the quality of this delivery, and third, it's never forget about cybersecurity. Because in Web3 space, I see that most of teams are focusing on their on-chain security. But the most of hacks was off-chain. Like, the biggest weakness in our industry is bridge. And most of the bridges in the space was hacked at least one time. And people still not maintaining off-chain security as we have it in Web2 enterprise space. And it must be changed, and it's, I think, will be changed in next like 3-5 years with a mass adoption of the Web3 in the Web2 enterprises, because like you cannot do Bitcoin ETF if you don't have good security.
And do you see this as more institutional adoption or more emerging players building solutions that other people can use?
I think it's more emerging because like it's not, we don't need institutional adoption to do the good products. Yes, we are institutions in our space because Bitcoin have not less liquidity than big players on the stock market or in the big banking. Like big family offices have how much? 100 bill? In crypto we have $1 trillion. Yeah.
Totally, totally. And to quote our lovely founder, Victor, who was speaking earlier today and is going to be doing a fireside in a little bit, Bitcoin doesn't need marketing, Bitcoin is the market. So bullish, bullish. Ian, would love to pass it over to you. You've worked across sectors. You've worked in TradFi, you've worked in DeFi, you've bridged the gap. You're working directly with VCs. You're going through incubator programs yourself. What are the pain points that you experience as you're building out a product as a founder, also being somebody who's successfully exited in the past? Probably quite inspirational for a number of people in the room here. What's your takeaway when you're going through this process? And do you have any advice or stories or learned lessons from your experience building Joltz?
Yeah, I mean, man, how much time do we have? No, I mean, I think there's always an interesting dynamic when we talk about like building on Bitcoin. I mean, one observation just off the bat is over this last year, it's been incredibly encouraging to see the amount of capital coming into the Bitcoin ecosystem. Outlier Ventures, as you alluded to earlier, was a great example of that. Early last year, the program we participated in was the first like Bitcoin-themed program. And so, you know, Outlier, I think, is what, the #1 Web3 by deal count at least, you know, VC, whatever the stat is. That's a really kind of great signal. And you've seen that as well. At the same time, I think it's critical for builders in the Bitcoin ecosystem to really formulate a compelling rationale for like why Bitcoin? Like why is it? It has to be more than just kind of, well, philosophically it's the most decentralized, secure, robust foundation to build on. Like it has to be more than that. And so an example for us that we think about a lot with Joltz, given how much we're building you know, with the Lightning Network, is like Lightning is simply better at scaling payments. Like it just is. Its throughput potential, the speed and cost. You look at Tron, which is the #1 blockchain for stablecoin use. Their transaction fees over the last couple years are up 10x. I could do that much, much, much more cheaply on Lightning. And if we're truly going to scale stablecoin payments globally, right, another 1,000x, 10,000x from where we are now, you know, a payment channel approach like Lightning. So again, I'm just sharing that as an example of like, this is more than just, oh, Bitcoin is kind of the best foundation to build on. So I would encourage builders to like really formulate what that is. It could have to do with liquidity. It could have to do with a lot of things. You know, the other general kind of advice I would share is like, you're probably farther from product market fit than you think. So just kind of like keep that little, I don't know if it's an angel or devil on your shoulder, like whispering in your ear, and know that your first, earliest users are probably very different than the next tranche and the next tranche and the next tranche. And so, you know, the feedback you get obviously is super critical, but that by no means is sort of a guarantee of like, oh, it's just going to be this kind of linear process by which I bring the next 5% of the market on. So, I don't know, a smattering of thoughts that are hopefully helpful.
No, that was great. That was great. And I think it actually transitioned us really nicely into some of the next topics I want to speak about, which is fabulous. Adi, I'd love to pass it over to you. You know, thinking of the VC perspective and looking at this idea of scalability and onboarding and mass adoption and all these things that are really required for the investments that funds like yours make to succeed. What's your perspective on the industry shifting to more of these kinds of real-world use cases? I personally hate the buzzword, but RWAs are, you know, one of the trending terms now. I like just calling them things that are stored on chain. But you know, we do see a ton of this. You know, Boosty was actually partially responsible for building out the Aura blockchain consortium. There's been so many conversations in the space across blockchains, but now we really see people thinking to take massive things like funds or like a stable coin and actually storing that on Bitcoin directly or on an L2 or on via Lightning, you know, transactions, et cetera. So what's your perspective right now on, I guess, the more institutional side or I guess the more mainstream adoption of bringing things on chain from your perspective?
It's so early. It is just absurdly early. The total TVL of RWAs right now is at like 17 billion. That is nothing when you look at the grand scheme of total assets.
How many things exist? Yeah.
It's a handful, right? You have government securities that are obviously leading the way there, private credit, some funds coming out of the woodwork and saying that they're going to tokenize a portion of their GP and offer it publicly to you know, high net worth individuals. But there still hasn't really been, you know, that aspect of bringing all fungible assets or all financial assets on chain. It's still a dream, in my opinion, but we're building the building blocks to make that happen. And I think the current state of all blockchains, as it relates to Bitcoin, Solana, Ethereum specifically, these blockchains have been stress tested a lot by high traffic, high volume transactions that are eating up a lot of the block space, which is great, right? I mean, memes, people say we're awful for the industry, but no, they actually stress tested so many blockchains and made sure that they don't shut down, right? They actually work and they're alive and they're breathing and they don't have to reorg anymore, right? There hasn't really been a fuck up on a lot of these chains as of late, right? Solana in January had the most volume of any chain because of Trump launch, Melania, et cetera. But Solana didn't have to reorg, right? So all these factors are just more traffic, more throughput coming on blockchains, which paves the way and the direction for all these institutions to be able to come in and put trillions, not billions, trillions of dollars of value via tokenized instruments that are all sitting on blockchains. So I think we're incredibly early. I do think we still need to work on general developer tools and infrastructure that needs to get refined. I think we made a lot of progress over the past 4 years, but that's still very necessary in order to get developers and applications to launch in a very quick manner, right? We've been building Zenrock and ZenBTC for just a year, and I can't tell you how many times something in the testnet, you know, messes up, something in Ethereum, the Holsky testnet messes up, which happened like last week, like the Pectra upgrade. They weren't producing blocks, right? So little things like that. Even on Bitcoin testnet, it was difficult to get funds for us too. And you know, I think we need to still have a focus, especially if we want to build applications and products on the Bitcoin L1 to make sure that libraries are all set and cleaned and refined. Developer tools and RPCs are all there, and you have kind of a virtuous, you know, ecosystem of developers that could use tried and true tooling in order to build their application. And that also relates to, you know, VCs telling the founder that they invested in, like, where the hell is the product? Like, what's going on here? But we still need better tooling and infra for that.
Absolutely. And just a quick follow-up. You mentioned that we're super early, and I mean, I completely agree. I mean, even terminology seems like it hasn't caught up yet fully. But you mentioned a bunch of verticals that are already launching, some that you're really focused on right now. What's happening now and what's immediately next in terms of tokenizing assets at scale globally for financial institutions and VCs?
I think it's a lot of funds, frankly, that want to tokenize a portion of their GP and potentially offer it to retail and verified high net worth individuals. I think that's coming. There's a lot of different companies, many that are leading the way in that space, but I think that institutional mindset of being able to tokenize a portion of your fund, offer it up, paves the way for new capital, not only for the fund, but for retail broadly to come in and be like, hey, this is a very easy way to get my distribution, see exactly what's happening in the fund, right, and have it all seamlessly run on smart contracts. I think that's going to be next. I still think you will also have just the general government security tokenized world going to explode. It's still quite small, but I think we're going to see that next with the myriad of different institutions that are coming on board. And then the last thing I'll say is just stablecoins. Like every single company is thinking about it. It's top of their mind. And they want to build one. So that's another space on the issuance side and the custody side and the reserve side and maybe the yield side. That's something that we're thinking about. The tailwinds in effect for that will really explode the overall TAM of stablecoins. And I think the ceiling is extremely high.
It's great to hear. It's great to hear. It makes me, please pump my bag, sir. Vitalii, you've had the chance of working through Boosty and also through previous companies like SoftServe. You've had the chance of working with governments, with international banks, with some of the largest Fortune 500s in the world who are doing some of these acts of DeFi and trying to transition some of their reserves, assets on chain at scale. What's your perspective on this, and how do you see the industry evolving over the past few years when we at Boosty started doing things like Aura, doing things like what we did for the Korean government, and how do you see that evolving today in terms of sentiment and in terms of the work that we're doing?
Yeah, I think like for the last 5 years, the main evolution of the RWAs is adding the AI inside it, because adoption of AI helps to do it's more not like NFT with something on chain which represents the asset, but it can provide the real tokenization of the all legal stuff on chain, do anchoring all legal stuff like when I'm doing for real estate, and have it like legally on chain. But from the adoption, I think like we have currently very good proof of value in Brazil. Like Brazilian governments currently tokenize everything. They do tokenization of every layer of the governance, and I think it will be finished in 3-5 years, and we will see the first governance-grade ecosystem of RWAs, and it could be shown for us the adoption and how it's efficient or not. Because from the general TradeFi perspective, RWA is a beautiful solution to decrease the cost of maintenance everything, the cost of transferring, and to create the market more accessible. Like general stocks. I'm Ukrainian. We don't have access to the New York Stock Exchange, to the Japanese Tokyo Stock Exchange. We have to use broker for it and pay additional fee. But if it would be tokenized, everybody could have access.
This is a great sentiment. That's a really great point to mention. Ian, just to bridge this gap and to start bringing us towards a close, Joltz is one of those solutions that really is allowing for this gap to be bridged, to allow to make Bitcoin more accessible to more people at scale, ideally, and make funds be able to send faster, quicker, smarter, easier. What's your perspective on this, and how have you seen both VCs but also clients adopting this and hopefully starting to scale their adoption via Lightning, via Bitcoin, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, just to share a couple kind of real case studies from our work at Joltz on the topic of tokenization. So obviously, stablecoins for us is kind of the #1 focus. We've got probably a dozen or so issuers, big and small, different flavors, right? Fiat-backed. I want to pass the yield on, Bitcoin-backed. So I'm really, really excited to see these different experiments coming to fruition. We're also working with a luxury fitness center of all things that wants to tokenize loyalty points on Bitcoin, right? And so loyalty points is a massive, it's like hundreds of billions of value in the traditional loyalty market, and that gets rugged every year systematically. Probably like 40% of that value gets debased annually just from overnight Starbucks saying, hey, actually it now costs you double the points to redeem your free cup of coffee. So that's just an interesting one that I think what they're doing with our tech is you'll have this like a kilo token. It can be immediately swapped for Bitcoin. It provides a kind of gentler onboarding for people to Bitcoin, which I think is super important. So you're kind of packaging it in this vessel that looks like a more traditional kind of thing. So I think loyalty is like an interesting category within all that. We've had carbon credit companies approach us wanting to, which is kind of ironic because Bitcoin has for a long time had, this, it's not very green, which is, not true in a lot of ways since, renewable energy is being used to, but that's for another day.
Volcanoes.
Yeah. So that's also interesting as well. Adi, on your point, the funds, we've had a couple small funds approach us. And again, really this, value of having this on this immutable kind of ledger that is Bitcoin. So we're seeing a lot of those interesting use cases. Like right now, I will agree it's early, but I think what we're so excited about in terms of scalability is being able to not just tokenize these assets on chain via Taproot assets, or obviously there's other protocols as well, but in the case of Taproot assets, being able to then lift those into the Lightning Network. So now all of a sudden I can instantly transfer, instantly swap from one asset to another. I just think that unlocks a ton of potential natively on Bitcoin. So that's something we're super excited about.
Huge. Unfortunately, this panel is coming towards a close, but we're not done yet. We still have a whole day of programming ahead of us. Would love to just pass the mic over to each of our amazing panelists one more time. Adi, can you tell us just a little bit more? If somebody wants to go and look into Zenrock and your funds, they want to go find you afterwards. If they don't find you immediately after this, where can they find you? And maybe give a little bit of a plug for Zen. BTC.
Yeah, absolutely. Official on Twitter. We're on Telegram, Discord. My Telegram is just ADIT, Dave. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. ZenBTC will be going live in March. We'll have a massive presence on Solana. So trying to bring $2 trillion of value to the Solana ecosystem is something that we're really focused on. So we have a slew of DeFi ecosystem partners that we're going to launch with. So really excited and stay tuned.
Beautiful. He just gave you his Telegram, y'all. That's alpha, so find him after this. Vitalii, give us a little bit of a plug for Boosty Studios, and what are you excited for in the immediate future? Where can we find you and your work this year?
Yeah, like we have this year more institutional focused approach in the Boosty. We started consultancy with Accenture, PwC, British American Tobacco, AstraZeneca, big focus on Japanese market. DNA, SFML banks. I think like this year will be about the institutional adoption, and we will help these institutions to bring the proper technology in their world.
Beautiful. BoostyLabs.com and at Boosty Labs on social media. Last but most certainly not least, Mr. Ian Major, give us maybe a little bit of alpha on your roadmap for Joltz this year, and where can people find you if they want to come chat after this?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find us online at joltz.app is our website. You can find us on X, Joltz_BTC. We just launched the Joltz wallet, which is the first self-custodial wallet supporting Taproot assets. It's all on-chain currently, but we'll have Lightning support hopefully over the next month or so. So we're very excited about that. But really, the wallet is a demonstration of what can be built with our tooling. So our SDK, APIs, you can go to docs.joltz.app for our very V0, so just be kind of advised there. But yeah, reach out. I'm on X, Ian_Major. Should I give my email to outdo?
Give your cell phone number.
Yeah. But no, would love to hear from folks. Always welcome kind of early feedback on what we're building, and appreciate the opportunity to share.
Oh, amazing. Give these guys a round of applause. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us.
Thanks.
Adi, thank you for making time. I know you have a very busy travel schedule today, so really appreciate it.